Hi, everyone. Welcome to Waste 360's Nothing Wasted podcast. On every episode, we invite the most interesting people in waste, recycling, and organics to sit down with us and chat candidly about their thoughts, their work, this unique industry, and so much more. So thanks for listening and enjoy this episode. Hi, everyone. This is Liz Bothwell from Waste 360 with Dave Ford, founder of SoulBuffalo and co-founder of the Oceans Plastic Leadership Network. Welcome, Dave, and thanks for being on the show today.
Hey, Liz. How are you? Thanks for having me.
Thank you. We're so glad to have you here. We've been wanting to talk to you for a while. Would love for you to give a little background on yourself and introduce you to our listeners and what fueled your passion for the work you're doing.
SoulBuffalo started as an expedition company. You know, we have been taking senior leadership on environmental expeditions around the world for years now. Done a lot of work in the Arctic and Antarctic on climate change expeditions, done a lot of work in Africa and in India on wildlife conservation. And 4 years ago, really as the plastic issue really came into the zeitgeist in a really big way, we just really knew that there was an opportunity to experience this issue tangibly because it's such a tangible issue. So we chartered a ship and essentially ran the first ever ocean plastics expedition, invited top leaders across the plastic value chain, most of the top NGOs dedicated to the plastic waste issue, out into the middle of the Atlantic Gyre. And we did the Ocean Plastic Leadership Summit last May, which really proved to be like the foundational platform for everything we're doing now with our Ocean Plastic Leadership Network.
That's great. And was your goal for this to reach some sort of Paris Accord for plastics? What were you thinking, Dave?
Well, I mean, I think, you know, a lot of good math out there that's saying that we have 10 years to solve this. And there's just a tremendous amount of energy and organizations out there that are dedicated to this. And we feel like if there's anything standing in the way, it's just speed and timing. And, you know, especially with everything that's just happened with the coronavirus, I mean, it's really important that we keep the momentum going so that we can figure this out within the next 10 years. So, you know, we built a platform specifically to address those challenges. So, yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot of different ways that this could all come together, and a Paris Accord for plastic is certainly one way to do it. But what we're really working to do is just synergize and help, you know, boost and enable all these amazing organizations that we work with, you know, really across the spectrum. I mean, we have Greenpeace and Dow Chemical on our advisory board, and I think that's the first time that's ever happened. So, you know, we really feel like it's really important to include all parties, all solution sets, you know, whether or not they're in direct contrast with each other. We really believe like productive tension is a way to get things moving in a much more rapid way than they currently are.
I love that, the productive tension and then doing it in such a concrete way. And I know you brought together some unlikely friends during your excursion last year. Can you talk a little bit about that and how that went?
Yeah, sure. So, yeah, we had 160 passengers with us in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean off the coast of Bermuda. The reason that the Atlantic Gyre, the gyres are these 5 major slow-moving currents that capture a lot of the plastic. So the Atlantic Gyre is an interesting one because you can get out in the middle of the open ocean and experience the plastic issue because there's these giant seaweed patches, sargassum seaweed. So the plastic actually gets caught in these seaweed patches. Now the Pacific Gyre gets all the press because it's so much bigger and it stretches like a huge swath of the northern Pacific. But the Atlantic Gyre is actually an easier place to really tangibly feel the issue. That's why we picked the Atlantic Gyre. Again, we had 160 participants with us, spanning the spectrum. We had Greenpeace and Nestle Waters actually shared a room on this vessel. It wasn't our idea, but it kind of came to be. It was in the middle of a Greenpeace action against Nestle Waters. That was a really powerful experience for the 2 leaders that were in a very small room on the ship, and I think they were able to forge a relationship that's been helpful and understand more about the sort of complexity of both sides of the issue and each other's perspectives. But I think the most important thing was really twofold. I mean, first off, we hit like the mother load of plastic. We hit a ton of plastic. We were pulling handfuls of plastic out of these seaweed patches. There is like a myth that there's these giant trash islands out there. And that does happen from time to time when you're in a storm washout for a hurricane or certain places in Southeast Asia where the issue is just really, really bad. But for the most part, it's actually much scarier. It's more like a plastic smog. It's tiny fragments of microplastics or bigger pieces that are eaten by fish. There's certainly a lot of big durable goods out there as well. I mean, we were pulling lobster traps that had come down to Bermuda from Maine and octopus pots that have floated over from Morocco. They have these little plastic octopus pots. I mean, we hit a ton of stuff. We had a big consumer packaged good company that makes a lot of toothbrushes, pulled 2 of their toothbrushes out of the gyre when we were there. So we definitely had like a really emotional experience for a lot of folks that were there. I mean, that we hit, and there's no guarantee that you're going to hit anything, but we hit a lot. So I think that was like, of course, really important on the experiential and expedition side of the thing. But more importantly, we had really brilliant leaders. We had 6 CEOs. We had a lot of CSOs, senior R&D leads, brand leaders. And we took all these brilliant minds and we put them together in groups. And 4 initiatives were born on the ship, 2 of which are funded, 2 of which are massive ideas that have a lot of traction. So, 8 months later, I really proved the model that when you take these brilliant leaders and put them together in unique ways, that magic can happen. And so we're really excited about that, and, working to duplicate that into some degree online, like how can we put the right leaders together online to help, solve everybody's problems collectively, because there's certainly a lot of complex issues around this specific subject. This is not an easy world crisis to tackle.
No, not at all. And it's great that you brought so many brilliant minds together and it was so action-oriented. So you said you walked away with sort of 4 main tenets. Can you talk about those a little bit?
So I'd say the first one, and this is, a funded initiative. We brought 5 of the top waste picker cooperatives in the world. Now, for the people in the audience that don't know about, the waste pickers, there's projected 15 million informal economy waste pickers that are pulling plastic and other materials, but largely plastic, out of landfills, off of beaches, out of the environment. They're really like the unsung heroes of the circular economy. And, a lot of these people are living below the poverty line. Whatever they're picking every day is, it's how they're feeding their families at night. And there's a lot of really great organizations that are dedicated to helping these people, both public and private sector. And we have both represented. So we had 5 organizations that were with us on the ship. The 5 organizations are Mr. Green Africa, which is based in Nairobi, Shintan, which is in India, WeGo, which is based in Brazil, but like a global network in itself, Plastic for Change in India, and First Mile, which is in Haiti. So, largely these organizations are in the global south or the developing world. And, there is just a tremendous amount of waste that's ending up in the environment, and these people are getting it out. So the goal of this specific program is certainly to empower these people with living wage training, with access to health care, access to microfinancing loans, but more importantly, we're working to help give them global access to brands that can buy their materials and stabilize their markets. One of the organizations, for example, just a few weeks ago, reached out because out of nowhere, the pricing just cut in half. What they were getting routinely, over a long period of time, all of a sudden cut in half, and they didn't really have any good explanation for why. And there's so much demand from the big CPGs, the consumer packaged goods, want this recycled material. Now, there's definitely can get tricky with food grade or different specs that need to happen. There's a tremendous amount of initiatives, like the Cokes and the Pepsis of the world Nestle's in the world are putting their stake in the ground, so they want more recycled material in their packaging. And there's a lot of supply out there. So we're working really hard to help these organizations align directly with the big brands to help stabilize their markets. Second initiative is being housed by Pixera Global, which is one of our partners, one of our advisory board members. This is totally born on the ship, and it's called Zero Plastic Waste Communities. And it's all about bringing a zero plastic waste footprint to individual village archetypes in the developing world. So think about like a coastal African city like Takoradi, Ghana, which is one of our first targets. There's lots of small coastal villages all over the world. So the idea is to get this coastal village to a zero plastic waste footprint and then roll out the blueprint and the learnings to help other similar archetypal cities. And we have pilots that we're working on in Rajasthan, which is the mouth of the Ganges, landlocked, totally different can of worms there. We're working with some island communities, specifically in conversations with Sitka, Alaska, which is Native American community, totally different, ball of wax when you're talking about island communities and how they're working with their waste and how the plastic waste specifically. So the idea is just to build these models so they can scale across different similar communities. We have an alternative material IP factory that we're working on with John Warner, who is the father of green chemistry. He's one of the most renowned chemists in the world. He won the Perkins Medal. He is just a brilliant, amazing guy. But like the right guy to build the next round of alternative materials that are marine biodegradable, that basically can break down in the environment in a non-toxic way. So this is a sort of bigger picture, and we're really kind of have our sleeves rolled up with this one right now. There's shared IP across multiple partners. So very lawyers involved when you get with IP, but this is more on the ship. And, the idea is just to work with John and with a slew of major brand partners to build materials that don't exist right now that could help solve this issue. And then lastly, we have a program called Zero Hero that is a massive idea. It's at scale as well. And it's all about getting retailers to work together. We have some incredible brand partners that are already aligned with us on this, but get retailers to work together to make it so the average Joe or the average Jane, when they're shopping in a grocery or big box environment, to understand what they're buying is best in class packaging. So identifying the criteria of what that means, and some of that is going to be percentage of recycled content in the material. Some is packaging reduction, reuse and refill models. But, how can we get it so that a large percentage of the populace just thinks about the type of packaging that they're buying when they're in a retail experience? So that's a really, and this is global in scale. We're talking to some European retailers and Australian retailers, additionally to all the big guys here in the U.S. So consumer consciousness is definitely doesn't get more important with respect to this issue, the getting consumers just to understand and care about what they're buying. So those are the four, and we're super excited and
Wow.
Just have such amazing people aligned with each of them. So
I love that. You have a lot that you're working on right now, and then a lot aspirational, and that can really come to fruition. So we applaud you for that. And I know Ellen from HP was on the ship, and she was on our show recently, and she just really seems to be walking the walk for sure. I mean, it sounds like she's not only helping with the waste pickers' lives in Haiti, but actually finding new markets and new uses for plastic. Are you finding this same type of concrete effort happening with a lot of your members?
I mean, I would say that's the most rewarding part of doing this, is that you have people like Ellen Jakowski, who's the global head of sustainability at HP. I mean, and like her archetype, there's people in every company that are just their life mission absolutely revolves around solving this issue. And Ellen and HP are doing some incredible work, but I'd say like all of our partners have similar initiatives, maybe focused on different things, but we're just working with top leaders, inside of these really big organizations and NGOs for sure, that just, wake up every day and know that they can make a difference. We have, as a part of the network right now, We have PepsiCo and Coca-Cola and P&G, Hasbro, Dow, HP, Waste Management, Nestle Waters, Clorox, Carnival, the American Chemistry Council is a partner. We have the Ellen MacArthur Foundation. On the NGO side, we have, Greenpeace, as I mentioned, National Geographic, the Recycling Partnership. I think Keith introduced us, if I remember correctly. Yeah, Liz, we have Circulate Capital, Closed Loop Partners, the World Economic Forum's GPAP is a part of what we're doing, Conservation International, World Wildlife Fund. I mean, it's kind of on and on. I mean, it's really been incredible. And we have 65 organizations in the world, and I would say we have like 90% on the NGO side of organizations that are just, eat, sleeping, and breathing this every day. So we're surrounded by brilliant people. The Sustainable Packaging Coalition, SAP is a great partner. We have ASU, NYU, and Stanford represented on the advisory board. Systemic. I could kind of keep going on and on, but it's really humbling in a lot of ways to be surrounded by such incredible organizations on all sides.
Oh, I bet. And if you get that many brains thinking about this issue, you're certainly going to come up with solutions. And I love your idea of speed and that it matters and getting it done within the 10-year time frame. That's awesome.
Yeah, and I mean, I think what we really tried to do is just invite all the major players to the party. We're not looking at this like competitively, we're a membership organization, and we invited all the other membership organizations to be a part of this because we need to synergize. There's definitely a lot of duplication that's happening out of there. There's a lot of confusion, I think, on the brand side of like, all right, well, should I invest with this NGO or that NGO, or seems like what they're doing are similar, just so if we can help, just facilitate synergy and speed through what we're doing, and just help people connect deeper and faster, then we're doing our job. And that's what we've been able to do. And that's how we've been able to build, the trust to convene around this issue in this type of way. I mean, it's part of, I think, what our strength has been is that, for years we've been taking C-suite executives to, Antarctica and Greenland. And I mean, it's been experiential in nature. Well, more importantly than the experiential piece, it's been about the connections and how deep you can take the relationships when you're in these types of settings, and we've been experimenting online and finding a lot of ways that we can do similar things, creatively and uniquely online as well. So that's been a big part of what we've been building out as the coronavirus crisis has hit, so we're really, viewing this entire sort of world challenge through as just a huge opportunity. Our motto is like the obstacle is the way, and we really can already feel us getting stronger through this.
That's amazing. I love that outlook. And it sounds like you are pivoting, because of the coronavirus. Can you talk a little bit about what that virtual experience could look like for your network?
Well, I wouldn't call it a pivot. I would just call it like a recalibration. I mean, we are absolutely always going to be going out in the world and, immersing leaders. That's essential to what we're doing. But I think, a big piece of what we have, we have an online network, an online community, and we're really looking at like collaboration rooms. We have a lot of relationships with CSOs, really senior leaders in R&D, and with competitors. So, what we've been working to build out is, the ability to get these people in smaller groups together online. We certainly, are working on a lot of bigger initiatives as well, and we can do, town halls and Ask Me Anything, and, we have, great partners that have incredible content. There's a lot of organizations that are doing that. I mean, it's important to get, to educate as a part of this, but we're really rolling up our sleeves, on the working group side of things. It's like, how can you take the top 5 CSOs from the top 5 EPGs? When I'm having, really like in the last few months, most of my conversations have been just check-ins around like, how you doing? How are you personally, professionally? Where do you need help? What's keeping you up at night? And how can we, through the network, help? And, we're finding a lot of similar issues with big companies, specifically at the CSO level and, again, at the R&D level. It's like, well, how can we help put together working groups in really smart ways to help move the needle, to help competitors, at times solve problems, and how can we put the NGO groups together to help them synergize and work smarter? And that's really where, I feel like what we're doing, it's really an extension of what we've already, and it's really about just putting people together that are going to add value, to each other. That are going to add value to, each other's organizations, who are going to be stronger by knowing each other and knowing each other in a deeper way. So that's kind of where we're recalibrating. But again, it's the same ethos of what we've always done. It's just given us an opportunity to dive a little deeper on the deeper and faster, on the online side of things. And, we had an incredible, our second Ocean Plastic Leadership Summit was planned. We were going to sail from the Azores to the UK. We had heads of global supply chain, on board from some of the biggest companies in the world. And the coronavirus hit, and it was a very easy decision to cancel. And we canceled pretty early on, but, until the corporate travel bans, are lifted, we're in a completely new world. But I think the sort of positive side of that is that, everybody has a lot more time these days. Maybe not everybody. I have a 3-year-old, and a lot of people are working at home with kids, and, but, nobody's on the road right now. There's an opportunity to deep dive. There's an openness to explore new avenues and new ways to meet, to connect, and new ways to drive progress. And, I feel like, we're just really well positioned to help, a lot of folks that are dedicated to this issue, so that we don't lose ground, right? There's a lot of good things that are happening out there, and it might not all be moving fast enough, but, when something like this happens, it's a pretty major global speed bump, but we got to keep moving against a major global crisis like ocean plastic. We can't let another major global crisis slow it down, because timelines don't change.
Absolutely. And to your point, it supports your mission anyway, and it keeps these groups engaged and connected throughout the year. Even if you were able to go on your next trip, it's a great way for people to connect all year long. So I love that. And then, Dave, do you think people will come out of this pandemic ready for real change where our planet is concerned?
I'm an absolute optimist that this is going to be, obviously, this is as trying a time as any of us alive can remember, right? You hear a lot of comparisons to, it's been a really good run since World War II, right? But I think the opportunities are, for us to come out of this stronger, for the environment to, to focus on the environment, to even catapult further, into, this sort of collective, work stream from the industry point of view. It's been an incredible wake-up call across the board. So, I do think we're going to be able to come out of this stronger. I think it's also, you look at, on a different topic, when you look at just the air pollution, the lack of air pollution through this time has really been interesting. You read in reports about, views in the world, blue skies in China and views of the Himalayas from India, that just people that live in these places haven't seen for years. So, I think, the same across the board. There's just a huge opportunity, and we're just watching the world mobilize right now. We're watching spending, initiatives in the U.S., for example, that are unimaginable, coming together to help get the economy back on. It's possible for us to solve these issues. There's no doubt about that. We're really hoping that this, and I really feel positive that this is going to be a wake-up call, and for the environment, it's going to be a really good thing, at the end of the day.
Definitely. And then what have you learned about leading during these wild times? I know this is, like you said, unlike anything we've experienced before.
On a personal note, I live 2 hours north of New York City, in the Catskills, down a dirt road. I lived in New York for 10 years. My wife and I had a baby. We moved up into the country, had a lot of friends here. But my sister-in-law and my brother-in-law are New York City doctors. They have 3 kids, and 2 of their kids, since this happened, my brother-in-law is a thoracic surgeon, and my sister-in-law is a pulmonologist. So they're in the thick of it down there. So we've taken in my 14-year-old nephew and my 9-year-old niece. So on a personal note, that's been incredible. Our family, I feel like has gotten much stronger, and focusing, on the home front has been really powerful, because I've been running 100 miles an hour for a really, really long time, and having to just take a deep breath and kind of just feel the energy of what's happening and adapt to it has been a really powerful learning experience. And I think professionally too. I mean, they're initially, running 100 miles an hour to run this second Ocean Plastic Leadership Summit in Europe, and then having it cancel, in a very short amount of time. I think there was like a sort of internal pressure just to like keep moving fast, but it's also just not possible right now, in the same way. So, I mean, just being patient and just realizing like this is the time, for our members, and I really feel like the conversations I've had with our membership have just been incredible, right? But just reaching out and saying, how are you? How you doing? Like, where can we help during this time? We've been able to help connect some of the plastic industry with some of our manufacturers that have shifted to make face masks. So we've been able to connect some just supply on that front, just sort of be connective tissue to help get some emergency face masks, face shields built through, just outreaching, really quickly to some of the CEOs we know. So yeah, it's been, I think for us, just really powerful, really formative, and personally, just realizing it's okay to be patient, and that it right now, at this point in time, in the middle of April, at the height of this pandemic, it's more about just making sure everybody's good to go and just figuring out where we can help, and that, there's going to be a lot that we're going to launch in the coming months, but it doesn't have to happen overnight, right?
Absolutely. And please thank your sister-in-law and brother-in-law for all that they're doing. They are the real heroes right now.
It's beyond comprehension, what's happening down in New York City. So yeah, we're really grateful. I'm just super grateful to help. And again, it's been such a win-win, such a powerful experience to be able to do this and be able to hold space, for our family. So thank you. Appreciate that.
And so, Dave, a lot of our listeners are on the waste and recycling side of things, and a lot of what you're working on is upstream as well. What do you think the waste and recycling role is in all of this, the plastics crisis?
Well, I can tell you that the conversations that I've had with many of the CSOs around this issue, and when I ask them what's keeping them up at night, it's lack of access to recycled materials at scale. That, it's pretty uniform. It's like, how can we get the scale we need so that at the price we can, at the prices that we can, execute at and make it viable to get as much recycled feedstock, into our products. So it's interesting, we have lots of conversations, we certainly have like a waste picker, portion of our sort of that side of the equation, and working with the developing economies. We have a lot of MRFs, a lot of recycling companies that are, supplying a lot of materials, ocean bound and otherwise, right? So I think that the role of the recycling community is like, we just need to figure out how to get these brands what they need at scale so they can start using more of it, because they really want to, and start attacking the roadblocks that are preventing that, and there are a lot of them. So I think that, one of the opportunities that we feel like that we can help facilitate is just, more of an open dialogue from a lot of the big companies that need the supply, and just so many different organizations that can provide these materials.
Absolutely. And then what advice would you have, Dave, for people who want to do their part to overcome this plastics crisis?
I mean, I think it all comes to connection and collaboration and understanding, what's happening out there and how your specific niche in this industry help. So, I think that's what we hope to do as well, is just to help educate better. Like, there's so many initiatives out there that are dedicated to this issue, at large. So how can we make it really easy for everyone to understand how they fit in and how they can help? I mean, it's going to be, for Waste Management, who's a partner of ours, it's going to be a completely, different set of criteria than like an individual MRF or any of the other sort of value, companies around the value chain. But, I think it all starts with awareness of what's out there and where the solution sets are moving, and, how we can just empower, the sector as a whole to work smarter together. Right? I think it's all about together, competitors working together. That I think, in a nutshell, it's like, how can we get, which is tricky in this model that we operate under as a world. It's like, how can we get competitors to work together? That's where this becomes a movement and not just like a hodgepodge, companies that are working, kind of all over the map. It's like, how do we make it consistent, move it together, and move all the organizations together in the same direction?
Definitely for the greater good. And then, so Dave, SoulBuffalo set out to help people experience the world, right? And now you're really helping to change it. Are you feeling like your vision is becoming a reality?
Well, I feel like we built an incredible network on ocean plastics, and I feel like we're just getting started. So, we have 65 organizations to date, 22 of the biggest companies that are in the value chain, but we're absolutely just getting started. So I would say, like, we're on our way. I would say, talk to me in 10 years and see how we're doing against this issue, and again, we just want to help to boost all of these other efforts that are out there, like all the NGO partners, all the brands, help facilitate this productive tension, between some of the activist groups and the industry groups, and just realizing it's okay that they don't see eye to eye at all times. So, I couldn't be more excited about where we are, but we got a long way to go, and we're just really excited to continue to roll up our sleeves. We're a nimble organization. We're able to experiment, but I think the strength of what we have going on is just really powerful leaders, at the heart of our membership. So, the more powerful leaders that we can bring into the mix, and just get everybody to know each other deeper and better, I think we'll be, that's, if we can, as we continue to build this, it's just going to get stronger and stronger and snowball.
Definitely. I saw that you posted that the ship you used during the excursion just sunk a Venezuelan battleship. Oh my, can you please tell us that story?
Yeah, that was a pretty wild, hard to believe story. So the ship that we chartered to go out into the Atlantic for the Ocean Plastic Leadership Summit last May was largely used in Antarctica and the Arctic wildlife photography boat. It's like 180 passenger, nice boat, but not over the top luxury by any means, but it's mostly taking like 75-year-old retired couples to Antarctica to take pictures of wildlife. So we got it as it was transiting back and forth from Antarctica to the Arctic when we went and did this expedition in the Atlantic off Bermuda. And it was a really perfect boat, just across the board, very quaint, very nice. Recently, like a week ago, it was repositioning from Buenos Aires, where it was docked, to Guadalupe in the Caribbean. And for some reason, they had to stop. There was no tourist on board. It was just the crew. They had to stop and do some like routine maintenance, but it was off the coast of Venezuela. And the Venezuelan Navy attacked the Resolute, which was the boat that we were on, and fired shots at it. And I don't know, they thought it was a spy boat. The reports coming out on the news is that it was in, CNN, BBC, you name it. The reason that this was a story is because the Venezuelan Navy rammed the Resolute, but it was an icebreaker. So it has this like really tough interior to deal with Arctic and Antarctic ice. And the Resolute sunk this Venezuelan Navy patrol ship. It just adds to the legend of the lore of the Resolute, and just completely ridiculous. And nobody died, which makes it hilarious. The boat did sink, but there wasn't any casualties on the Venezuelan Navy side. Just a random, refreshing non-coronavirus.
Exactly. And to your point, it adds to the lore. That's amazing. And now you'll have a lot to live up to, Dave, for the next one. The pressure's on.
We're ready for it. Totally ready. And we're ready to do a lot of stuff in the meantime. I think we're really well positioned to just continue to connect, these brilliant leaders across the board, until we are able to get back out there in the world.
That's awesome. That's amazing. So, Dave, can you tell our listeners how they can follow along with all of the good work that you're doing, whether it's your URL or Twitter handle, whatever you think will help them follow your amazing work?
Totally. My personal Twitter handle is @DaveFord88. Dave Ford, like the car, but no relation to any other famous Fords. And our website is oceanplasticleadershipnetwork.com, or you can go to SoulBuffalo.com. Follow either on LinkedIn as well. And I want to say really quick, I listened to your Baltimore Mr. Trash Wheel podcast, and I'm from Baltimore, so that was amazing. And I've known seeing those things in action. It was so great to deep dive with on the great work they're doing in my hometown.
Oh, that's great. I didn't realize you were from Baltimore. Oh, those guys were so fun to talk to and so humble. And I just love the work that they're doing and how they made that simple design turn into really a hauler on water that's making and doing some great things. So, thank you.
That was a really, I definitely encourage any of your listeners that didn't listen to the Mr. Trashville episode to get on that. Those guys are amazing. And that harbor was so trashed before they put these things in, and it's just amazing that to see what happens with a little innovation.
Well, Dave, thank you so much for being on the show today, and really bigger picture for bringing together all of these brilliant leaders and remarkable groups to really change the trajectory of the plastics crisis. And I know you're going to really do some great things in the next 10 years, and we're going to watch. So thank you for all that you're doing.
Oh, thank you so much, Liz. We're so just grateful for our partnership with Waste 360, and just really grateful to know you. So thanks for having us on, and we're excited to report back once we have we're at the next phase.
That sounds great. And stay well. And again, please thank your sister-in-law and brother-in-law, and enjoy having your niece and nephew there. I'm sure your 3-year-old is loving it.
She is. She's got a lot of attention, so it's amazing.
That's awesome. And stay well, and we'll stay connected.
All right. Thanks, Liz.
Okay. Thanks, Dave. Talk to you soon.